piggybacking off the Indy 500 and especially off of the Racecraft discussion, you know, let's talk this past weekend. With any time we post a pretty crazy finish where there's even an inch of contact or someone goes off a little bit, uh, karting just typically gets beat on for bad racecraft. So, Alex, you were in all, well, two, I guess three crazy finishes in the heats, and then walked away with a bit of a gift and a half in the main. How do you rate the racing in the series this year, last year? What's been different? Has it been the same? Where do you put it at the limit? Was it over the limit? Describe it, I guess.
Yeah, I think this year is a little more tamed at the front. Last year was pretty aggressive overall. I think it also kind of dominoed down the grid a little bit, maybe a little too over aggressive. But I think this year the front three have been aggressive, but it's definitely not dirty by any means. I think it's great racing. It's definitely wheel to wheel. I think the first heat, we were going three wide into turn seven. That never happens, and we had to find. I think me, Peyton, and Adrian have all raced, many years. We had to find some new ways to get around each other. And in turn seven, there was a little bit of contact. I think it was fair. And, we all came out fine. Heat two, there was, again, a little bit of contact. But, I think in the end, like when me and Peyton came in the scales, we all thought it was good racing. And, yeah, I thought it was fine. And then heat three, it was clean, good passing. And then the final, got a little lucky there when I passed for the lead, and then there was a little contact behind me. I looked back, there was nobody there, so I kind of got handed that one a little bit.
Braden?
Yeah, and I agree with him. I've been working with Cruise Racing Development down there, and last year, and I work with them in TSRS this year. And last year, I was not impressed with the group of drivers and just the standards of racing and TSRS. I've talked with Alex about it last year, just like everyone just never giving an inch, never like any, foresight to understand that there's a whole race, the best guy will win in the end. Whoever's fastest will win in the end as long as everyone drives fair, clean, and hard. And this year it's been a lot better, I think. Houston wasn't as good as it was, I think, at NTK. I think NTK is a little bit more difficult to race, so it sort of breeds some more aggression. But like I said, I mean, the more difficult it is to pass, the more you'll sort of push the limits and push the envelope, maybe squeezing them down, whatever. And it's not anything dirty, but it's just sort of doing everything you can to compromise their line and make it so that you have as advantageous a position as possible. And this year it's been a lot better. I think kind of trickles down from the front, where if the front three guys that are always competing for a win are driving clean, it generally does bleed down to the top 10, and the mid pack to the back of the pack, they do whatever they want. But if the guys that are winning the races are driving clean, then people sort of understand, okay, well, they're winning and they're not driving dirty, so I don't need to drive dirty either. And it makes the whole racing better overall.
I feel like it probably helps you guys, Alex, that this year doesn't have, a plethora of like rookie seniors in the lead pack yet. Like last year, a couple guys moved up. Aiden and Braden moved up. You were on your second year, so you weren't part of that. But junior can be a little bit silly because there's no veterans to kind of balance it out. And then if you get an influx of rookies, like, do you think that's maybe part of it last year too? Could you put your finger on why last year was nastier than this year, and that this year seems to be a little more tame?
Yeah, last year there were definitely a few rookies that were trying to make a name for themselves, and it wasn't good at all. It was way too aggressive, pushing people off the track for no reason. And that carried on to the national series a little bit, but in the TSRS it was pretty ridiculous, honestly. Every race it was just holding on for yourself and trying to survive in the front. But this year, everyone's a little more tamed, calmed down a little bit. No one, I mean, there's no rookies in the front, so I think it's definitely a little better this year.
What do you guys think is like the reason for that? Is it like because is it just worried of establishing yourself in a way? Because I feel like at a certain point, if you've been around, and you've had some good results in senior, if you have a third place car, you're going to be fine finishing third, and you're not going to go wipe out the leaders. Where if you have a third place car and you've never won or you've never been up front, then you're probably going to wipe them out. Like, is that it? I mean, what's the difference of like the rookie jitters compared to what we see after?
I
That's
mean,
definitely.
sorry, you can
Alex.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's definitely it. A little bit of it. I think also like these guys that don't really race in the front and nationally as well, and they're trying to prove themselves when they have a chance at the TSRS, and they go for these audacious moves that they're not going to work. I mean, just sending it, from 4 kart lengths back, or even just making mistakes into people, on the starts especially, running people wide. I think that makes it definitely something. And yeah, when they have the go-kart that's third and they don't think they can win, because I know we've always had usually the fastest go-kart every weekend, and they try to compete with us. They just make really audacious moves that aren't going to work. So that's a little bit of it, and they're trying to prove themselves that they can run in the front.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, I think it all comes down to, I mean, a lot of people like to blame coaches, but I mean, it really is the problem. I mean, and it's not the problem with the good teams. It's the problem with the teams that are, sort of run by people that, all they see is the front guys winning on aggression. So they just scream at the drivers to be more aggressive, but it doesn't come down to that. It comes down to, are you backing out? If somebody is putting a good move on you and they're alongside, you pretty much, unless they aren't alongside of you, in which case then you can try and drive it in harder and hold the outside. But if somebody is up the inside of you, you just have to let them go. I mean, just wait for 2 corners. Like the go-karts draft. I mean, you can always get them back at the end of the straightaway if you're faster than them. But people want to sort of try and race thinking they're either not fast or sort of race in a way that just slows everyone down and hope that they can make it through whatever crash happens, like sort of back everyone up and hope there's a crash. But it just comes down to knowing when to back out. If somebody's up your inside, give them room. If you give them room on their inside, on your inside, and I mean, at least in my experience, I always try to give people enough room, and I never really have a problem. Like very, very rarely, and it's usually sort of the drivers that don't have good reputations that are always the ones crashing out that you have problems with. But it just comes down to knowing when to back out, knowing when to fold your cards.